Ah, yes. The ketchup bottle slap. You've done this. Of course you have. Everyone has done this. And at some point you've probably thought, who designed this thing? Because the bottle is obviously the problem. Here's the weird part. It's not a mistake. Somewhere in Fremont, Ohio, there's a factory where most of the world's Heinz Ketchup is made. And inside that factory is a machine. Every batch of Heinz Ketchup is tested by it. The machine measures how quickly the ketchup flows. And if the ketchup moves too fast, Heinz won't ship it. 0.028 miles per hour. About 4 centimeters a minute. Roughly the speed of continental drift. Slightly slower than a sleeping snail. If it pours faster than that, Heinz rejects it. This isn't some internet myth. It's on Heinz's own website. They're openly bragging about it. So why would Heinz do this? Heinz is one of the most successful food companies in human history. They sell hundreds of millions of bottles every year. Surely they could solve this problem if they wanted to, right? No more slapping, no more mess. But they don't. Instead, they even reject batches that run too fast. Because at some point in the history of this company, somebody figured out that the shitty bottle was not a liability. It was an asset. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Heinz tomato ketchup goes on sale in 1876. The bottle is iconic, an octagonal glass bottle with a narrow neck. And getting ketchup out of it has always been a nightmare. But for decades, that didn't matter. Heinz's ketchup was simply too good. No one else could compete. Then, slowly, things changed. Competitors emerged, and Heinz started losing market share. Through the 1950s and into the 1960s, competitors crowd the shelf. Hunt's, Del Monte, store brands, and most of them have one advantage. They actually pour. Tip the bottle and the ketchup comes out. Heinz doesn't. And consumers, in tests, repeatedly, say they would prefer a ketchup that, came out of the bottle. That's where this guy comes in. Charles Berger. Heinz hands him the ketchup problem. Now, the obvious solution would be to change the product, make the ketchup pour faster, compete on convenience. Berger has a different idea, a special idea. Instead of making Heinz pour faster, he asks a strange question. What if the slowness is the selling point? In 1964, Heinz airs a commercial called The Ketchup Race. 2 bottles compete to reach the plate first. Heinz loses. Easily. The concept? Heinz, the ketchup that lost because it's too thick and rich to run. Believe it or not, it actually works. The campaign airs through the late 60s, into 1971. It plays during Super Bowl V. Heinz's market position stops sliding. But here's the part you only really understand if you've worked in food manufacturing. Once the marketing department has told the world that Heinz is the slowest ketchup, the marketing department has, accidentally, given the factory a target. Because every bottle Heinz ships from now on has to live up to the slogan. The ketchup, batch by batch, has to be reliably slow. So somebody, and the corporate history is genuinely fuzzy on which engineer, sets a hard upper limit on how fast Heinz ketchup is allowed to be. 0.028 miles per hour, or 0.045 kilometers an hour. If a batch flows faster than this, it is too thin. Too thin means it does not match the advertisement. It does not match the brand, and so it gets rejected. Now, I know what you're thinking. What a waste of good ketchup. But luckily, the rejected batches don't get thrown in a skip. They get re-blended, re-thickened, brought back into spec. So nothing is wasted, exactly. But the point is, the slowness is actively being manufactured. Every Heinz bottle you've ever used passed a test proving it was slow enough, which is completely insane, and also kind of brilliant. Okay, quick excursion. This will tie in a minute. 1971. The American singer-songwriter Carly Simon releases an album called Anticipation. The title track is about waiting nervously to go on a date. with, as it happens, Cat Stevens. 2 years later, Heinz licenses the song. They use it as the soundtrack for their next ketchup commercial. And the song, written about waiting for a man, is now about waiting for ketchup.
Doesn't your mom buy you Heinz?
No. Why?
Just taste it.
Heinz has, with one licensing deal, made the slowness of their bottle into something romantic. Something the viewer is supposed to enjoy.
Thick, rich Heinz ketchup. The taste that's worth the wait.
The campaign runs, in various forms, for 30 years. In 1987, the Leo Burnett Agency in Chicago locks in a new slogan that compresses the whole strategy into 7 words.
The best things come to those who wait.
Which Heinz still uses, by the way, after almost 40 years. Quite impressive. Then something happens that should have killed the entire strategy. In the early 1980s, Heinz finally solves the bottle problem once and for all. The plastic squeeze bottle goes on the market. It sits upside down. It pours on demand. The ketchup gets out. The slap is over. So that's it then, right? Glass bottle gets discontinued. Heinz switches to the squeeze bottle. Happily ever after. Except, that's not what happens. The glass bottle does not get ditched. It stays on the shelf. It gets sold, on the same shelf, right next to the plastic one, for twice the price. You see, the bottle that works is for normies. The bottle that doesn't becomes the premium version. Somehow, both sell. Make that make sense. And restaurants, diners especially, only ever put the glass bottle on the table. Because the glass bottle is the one that signals, this is a real diner. The squeeze bottle would look like you'd given up. Heinz hasn't fixed the bottle in 150 years. Because at some point, it just became legendary. Which brings us to 2021. Heinz partners with Waze, the GPS navigation app, and with Burger King. The campaign is called Bottleneck. Pun intended. Here's how it works. If you're stuck in traffic and your car happens to be moving at exactly 0.028 miles per hour, the maximum permitted speed of Heinz Ketchup, Waze sends you a coupon for a free Impossible Whopper covered in Heinz Ketchup. They literally calibrated a fast food coupon to the viscosity of their own ketchup. Think about that. A number invented to define ketchup thickness became part of a traffic jam promotion. The speed of Heinz Ketchup had become iconic, not just a manufacturing standard, not just a marketing claim, an essential part of the Heinz brand. So the next time you are at a diner and you slap the bottle like it owes you money, just remember, it's not you. That bottle was manufactured to spec and certified in Ohio by a machine to do exactly that. The bottle sucks. Heinz knows the bottle sucks. They decided that that was the point. And it worked.